Welcome to Ishka Baja, the Science of Enjoyment, Golf Cask Original.
Hey there, Golf Caskers. This is BailIE here, bringing you a new enjoyment of whiskey, kind of the science breakout, right? So kind of our enjoyment series, but more about the science side. This episode is going to be a DIY sniffing kit, nosing kit, learning to use your olfactory senses to pull out notes and flavors that you recognize. The really cool part about the enjoyment of whiskey and the science behind it is we're going to start diving in deep and understand what these are. We're going to talk about foreshots, congeners, heads, tails, where these different compounds come from, what they are, and why they produce these smells. Because we all know that of this DIY kit here I have that I'm starting to put together, none of these substances are inside of whiskey. There's not brown sugar in whiskey. There's not caramel. There is not vanilla. There is not nutmeg. There is not clove. None of that is inside the whiskey, right? It's a grain that's been distilled, put into an oak barrel. But during the aging period, and of course yeast in the distilling as well, but more so in the aging period, it's going to start pulling these different flavors. So what we need to do as tasters to become more adept at enjoying whiskey and finding some of these new flavors is we've got to learn to train it. I'm a golf coach. I've been a golf coach for almost 30 years, and I've helped players get to their level, to their next level of performance. Well, I'm going to get you to your next level of whiskey tasting performance. So right here I have Heaven Hill. I have Green Spot. So this is a malted barley, and this is a bourbon, corn-based. So if we were going to sniff this one, lots of sweet, lots of caramel to me, lots of sugar notes, a little bit of vanilla. Smells like a bourbon. Corn-based, definitely. And then I come over here to Green Spot. Completely different smell, right? So completely different aging process. This, I'm starting to get barley. I'm kind of getting that sweetness of the barley, but that's a different sweetness than a bourbon. I'm also getting apple flavoring. So this is kind of cool. I get some actual apple smells. So again, two completely different whiskeys, but over time my skills have gotten better. I'm able to smell and kind of pull out these notes that will help me enjoy the whiskey more, hopefully. So this DIY nosing kit that we are going to create, think of what we do in the science of enjoyment here is, if you really think about it, this would be like a college class, right? We're going to have a books class. I'm going to go in there, like I said, create videos on the different foreshots, heads, tails, where the different compounds come from, why we smell vanilla, why we smell different flavors, and we're going to talk about the science, but this is more of an application. So this is more of your lab class, and in college I was much better in the lab than I was in the book learning part. Go figure, right? Big dumb dummy. So this would be kind of the lab section. This is application. So what we're going to do is we're going to, episode 1, it's what we're in right now, we're going to make a DIY nosing kit. You can buy these online. They're expensive as hell. Feel free. The beauty of it is most of these, if you're at home and you cook and bake a little bit, you will have a lot of these actual, if you look at the list right here, you'll have most of these on hand. If not, you can go and acquire those. I'm currently in the process of dehydrating oranges, bananas, so I can expand that part of my kit. I dehydrate a lot, so I'm doing that as well. And then there's a few more actual herbs and stuff I need to go grab to kind of complete my kit. But with these 24, you're going to be really, really covered for bourbon. We'll release some extra ones for malts as well, so we'll keep expanding this kit. So episode number 1 is you need to understand why we're doing this and how we're going to kind of put it together, right? So again, we have 2 different whiskeys here creating 2 different smells. We'll drop these back up here. Oh heck, let's take a little nip. A lot of baking spices on this one too. Very good. I like Heaven Hill. It's lovely. All right, so what I have here are most of my sugars. And here I have some of more of my baking spices and things along that line. So how does this work? So again, when we create our smelling kits, these are smells that you commonly see inside of bourbon. So if we look at our sugars here, I have toffee, I have brown sugar, I have honey, I have caramel, I have molasses, I have maple syrup, and I actually threw leather in on the end. And over here is some of our more normal spices that we smell: nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla, oak, and clove. The funny thing about my oak here is this is how committed I am to this video. I took down a white oak tree just so I could have white oak. No, it was about to fall towards my house, so I had to cut it down. But the beauty is, it was a white oak. That is what bourbon barrels are made out of. So it was lovely to create my tasting or my sniffing kit. So what we were able to do is, inside of Amazon, I just ordered some 1-inch test tubes with tops. Here's some old oak shelving that I had, some scrap pieces. I drilled some holes that I can put these in. And so what we're able to do now is create our own DIY kit. We're going to use these 24 flavors out the gate, and then what we're going to do is put this together. The beauty of these, like I said, like this one is vanilla bean. So if you know what vanilla smells like, awesome. If you don't, this is a great test. Definitely vanilla. I love the smell of vanilla. The one thing we're also going to learn inside of this episode is how do we learn smells, and how can we take smells that don't exist inside of whiskey. There's a chemical formula that's going on that makes us think we smell this, but how can we actually access what vanilla smells like, what cinnamon smells like, and be able to apply that into our tastings, right? So inside of my phone, I didn't bring it with me, I have a journal app, and I went through and I took all 24 flavors or smells that we're going to work on, and I've associated that smell with a memory. So the way the brain works really well is if we can associate a memory, something that was very important in our life that is burned, etched into our brain, if we can associate a memory with a smell, accessing that memory and that smell becomes a lot easier. So I grew up in a restaurant family. My grandparents owned a restaurant in Norfolk, Virginia for almost 50 years. So I grew up around food and smells and taste. So for me, a lot of these tastes and smells were easy to associate memories, right? So to me, vanilla. In the summer months, we used to do blue crab bakes. So we would have bushels of crab, and we would hand make vanilla ice cream, right? And we would actually use vanilla bean, cut it, put it inside the ice cream, and that smell from those summers, I can still resonate that memory, that flavor of vanilla with that time making vanilla ice cream. So for me, vanilla instantly takes me back to that point, right? Cinnamon, my grandmother used to make a spectacular apple pie that was just loaded with cinnamon, and again, brings me back to that memory. And again, cinnamon is very easy for me to decipher the smell. Nutmeg, my grandmother made a great pumpkin pie. Same thing, lots of nutmeg, lots of baking spices in it. Again, takes me back to that piece. Again, we have molasses. I grew up in the South. We put molasses on biscuits and things along that lines. So again, I can think of Sunday mornings getting ready to go fishing, having molasses biscuits before we went out. All right. So again, all of these different flavors I've associated different memories with. Some are newer, right? Oak. I love woodworking. I deal with a lot of different woods, but I don't use a lot of white oak, which is kind of the barrel that, what whiskey's inside of the States is made out of mainly. So to me, white oak is an older memory, but now I think of bourbon, I think of whiskeys. And I was fortunate to be able to cut down a white oak tree and actually bring in the actual, a little bit of sawdust, and I actually put in some, oh goodness, does not want to come out of the hole I created. White oak is actually kind of sweet smelling. It's very nice. I'm leaving this one open right now because I want it to dry out. I don't want it to mold, so I'm allowing it to actually dry out just slightly. But again, here's the beauty of it is once we secure our 24 flavors, or 12 or 14 or whatever you're able to secure, we're going to sniff each one and try to associate a memory with it, right? And then once we do that, we're going to start using that to refine our smells. And if we don't have a memory, we're going to create one, right? We're going to start refining our smells. We're going to label each one. So on the very top of these, you can see I actually wrote what is actually in the jar. So out the gate, our next episode, we're going to sniff them with the names, just so we can say, all right, cinnamon smells like this, cinnamon, and we're going to do that. And then the following week, we're going to blind sniff. So we're actually going to not know what it is. We're going to lay them out. I'm going to tape up the jar so I can't see it. I'll undo the lid, sniff it, and say how good am I at actually predicting what that smell is. And then the next piece will actually sniff and taste at the same time. Can I pull these flavors out with the help of the smells? And then finally, we're going to taste without, and hopefully our knowledge and our experiences over the next couple weeks of actually training our nose to see if we can pull out newer flavors, right? So here's the beauty of it. Again, I'm going to go ahead and see what I can pull out now, and then in 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to do it again, the same whiskeys, and see if I can pull out new notes. So again, on the nose for me, I'm definitely getting kind of a toffee, brown, sugary mix. See if I can decipher that a little bit better when we do our tasting. I definitely don't get honey or molasses. Could be a little maple syrupy in there, we'll find out. I do get a little bit of vanilla on the nose. I get a little bit of oak as well. So we can definitely use vanilla and oak and see if we can help center. I do not get cinnamon, nutmeg, or clove off of this, not off the smell. But again, over time, we will test and see if we can do a better job. And then we'll look at green spot one more time. Green spot to me. Now I know it's green spot, so I know it's barley based. Barley to me just has a unique smell. And that's just from drinking a lot of Irish whiskeys. So I've really got to learn what the barley tastes like, as well as Scotch. But again, to me, I smell nothing but apple. It's just apple, with kind of a baking smells with the barley, kind of that bready, baking kind of behind it, sweetness that you would get in breads. And I'm getting a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of floral. But again, we're going to expand on these and see how much better in the next couple weeks our training gets, and see how much better we do. So again, we're going to use these 24 different flavors, and we're going to create our sniffing kit. Once we create our kit, we're going to go to episode number 2, and we're going to show you how to apply it, how we're going to start to use it. So homework is, let's start creating our kit. You don't need to order these flasks or these vials. You can use jars, ideally glass. Plastics tend to have an odor to them and will change the flavor. So if you can find glass with a screw top, it's ideal. Some have corks, great. You have, mason jars, small jars, whatever. However, if you have a baby, you have baby jars, clean them, wash them. You can use that, recycle. Things along that lines, right? Kids are good for something. But again, once we start to create this nosing kit, we're gonna start applying that next week. And again, your other part of your homework is, once you kind of come up with your starter kit, it doesn't have to be all 24, right? It can be 8, 10, 12. What you can find at the grocery store, what you can get your hands on easily. If you have friends, share. Like if you want to go buy nutmeg, I bought the actual nuts for nutmeg, and I broke it up and put it inside of here. It's going to cost you a little bit of money for that. So if you have a couple friends, go in it together, break these pieces up and share. But once you actually secure your different flavors, for the nosing kit, what we need to go ahead and start to do is start associating that with a memory. Put it in a journal, write it in a notebook. Again, burn that image and that memory, that imagery into the actual nosing. And then once you do that, we're going to be ready to go, and we're really going to advance your ability to enjoy whiskey. And again, that's our science of enjoyment, right? That's what we're trying to create. So once again, we have Heaven Hill, Green Spot are the ones that I'm going to go with as my go-to. So if you want to join me in this, go find yourself a bottle of Heaven Hill. Green Spot's really easy to find. Heaven Hill is not super easy to find, but you can definitely find it in the States. Go ahead and take those together, and you can go ahead and create this journey with me. In your notes, write what you smell, and then over time, let's see if we can actually pull out different noses, different profiles as we go forward. And I think the really cool part about all of this is women typically have better olfactory senses than men. So the ladies out there, you're actually will probably be far superior to what I can do. I know when I taste with my wife, she is much better at pulling out flavors, much more than I, as well as my daughter. You know, we had one the other night, and my daughter's like, man, this tastes like banana bread. And I'm like, I kind of get that a little bit. But man, she started pulling stuff out, and then everything I read up on it, everyone says it's like banana bread. So she nailed it. So again, the ladies out there, you typically have a little better olfactory sense than the males, but we as males, we're hard-headed, and we'll move forward, and we will train and work hard and try to close that gap. So join us on our DIY adventures inside of whiskey making, and we look forward to enhancing your actually whiskey growth. And we will do, you know, if you're thinking about this was nosing on how to nose whiskey, we're actually going to run a series when Gareth and I are together on how to actually go, if you're going to your first distillery tour, how to actually kind of sit down and enjoy whiskey, but more so how to taste it, right? So you don't stand out, how to nose it, how to start pulling flavors and scents and colors and alcohol count and all that inside of a tasting to make you a better whiskey taster when you are amongst your friends, if you're at a tasting or you're making your first trip to a distillery to do a tasting. We'll help you with that as well. But again, this part is actually building your skills to be able to nose whiskey better, and that nosing of whiskey will change the flavor of the taste of your whiskey and give you a much more enjoyable experience. Thank you so much, Golf Cask. We'll be looking for more information on Golf Cask TV. Thank you so much.